Welcome aviators and enthusiasts to today's thrilling journey through the world of flight operations. In this video, we'll embark on a comprehensive guide to setting up flight, the steps that it takes, and flight footage. Most importantly, we have 2 voluntary repossessions we need to snag in South Houston. This will be the first of many repo missions that we will recount on this channel. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for thrilling content soon to come. So fasten your seatbelts, plug in your headsets, and throw on some shades. We're taking off. To start my mission, I use an app called ForeFlight to set up the trip. This app gives me an abundance of information about the flight time, fuel usage, distance, weather, fuel prices, airport amenities, and much more. As you can see here, we are starting at Stinson Airport in South San Antonio, flying to Pearland Regional near South Houston. The trip is 170 miles, should take a little over an hour, and use about 15 gallons of fuel. The weather for the flight is perfect and should make for a beautiful flight. The airport is relatively close to where I work and makes for an easy drive. To the right of the airport, directly before the runway, is a cemetery. Frequent balloon releases makes for a potentially dangerous landing in which I always exercise caution. You may have noticed the enclosed gate around the cemetery. The owner of the cemetery had no choice but to put up the gate. You know, because people are dying to get in. Okay, if you're still watching, Stinson provides ample parking for pilots to park their vehicles and have direct access after returning from their flight. They provide 24-hour security to keep the planes and vehicles safe. This is much more convenient than international short-term or long-term parking. When I first started pilot school, I was very ignorant to the world of aviation. I thought that large international airports were the only airports around. I did not know that there are plenty of airports available for pilots in major cities and surrounding towns. One of the coolest and most convenient parts of flying out of a smaller airport is walking right up to your plane without security lines, having to check bags, dealing with delays, or being at the mercy of the airlines. As you can see, we walked right through the front doors, through the lobby, and to the plane. The most important part of flying is doing a thorough pre-flight inspection of the plane before taking off. There are many important things to always check, so using a checklist every time is key to ensuring a safe flight. I like to follow the checklist word by word, then do a second walkthrough to double check the safety of the plane. After starting the plane, I type in the identifier code of the airport I am flying to into my GPS. This is very simple and makes the trip easy. Then, I tell the tower I'm flying to, at what altitude I'm flying at, inform them that I have the local weather, and request a taxi out to the runway. While taxiing and before entering the runway, I perform something called a run-up. This is where I check the functions and gauges of the plane to ensure a safe flight with working systems. After being given clearance for takeoff, I enter the runway and give the plane full power. While flying, it is important to never disregard the gauges. Scanning and understanding your gauges is key to keeping your plane in the air. A couple of these gauges include the fuel reading, oil temperature, oil pressure, fuel pressure, airspeed, ammeter, turn coordinator, and much more. The fuel is held in the plane's wings. It is important to change the fuel selector so the plane draws from both wings and the plane does not become unbalanced. Fuel weighs 6 pounds per gallon and can quickly cause a plane to be unbalanced if not switched. This plane has a pump in which I have to turn on to keep the fuel flowing while switching the fuel tanks. Air traffic control does a great job of always keeping us safe from other planes. It is agreed in the pilot community that landings are the most difficult part of flying. Chuck Yeager, the first man to fly faster than the speed of sound, said, "If you can walk away from a landing, it's a good landing. If you use the airplane the next day, it's an outstanding landing." The airport does not have a control tower. This was one of the most surprising elements of aviation that I had no clue about. Without a tower, pilots are responsible to make radio calls regarding taxiing, landing, their altitude, and whereabouts near the airport. Without making the radio calls, a pilot could create a potentially dangerous situation for themselves and anyone else at the airport. Fueling up is pretty simple. You just connect the ground to the plane and use the pump the same way you would do with a vehicle. The plane's fuel is held in the wings. My plane holds a total of 64 gallons, 32 in each wing. The flight there and back used about 30 gallons of fuel, which cost me about $165. Fuel prices amongst airports range significantly, so it's always important to check prices before leaving. When I first started flying, I was very surprised by the amount of airports available to private pilots as well as the amenities offered. Pearland Regional is an excellent airport. The staff is very friendly and accommodating. Most airports have coffee, water, snacks, and even courtesy vehicles. Fortunately, Pearland had a courtesy vehicle available for me to use when I arrived. This vehicle happened to be a Ford Fusion. The fuel was filled up, the car was extremely clean, and it drove great. The 2 voluntary repossessions that we needed to pick up were less than 20 minutes away from Pearland Regional Airport. This made for a short drive to give me plenty of time to return the courtesy vehicle. When I arrived to the vehicles, I began to realize that I would certainly use that extra time to get my team situated to drive back. The Ford Escape started right up, had great tires, and was ready to go. The Corolla, however, had a punctured tire and a very hard time starting. After realizing that the Corolla didn't have a jack or spare tire, we called a local shop for help. This gave us time for a quick pit stop for some conies, tots, and slushies. The mechanic changed the tire so fast that I had to slow the video down a bit. Now that my team was ready to go, I drove back to Pearland Regional to return the courtesy vehicle and prepare for my flight back. The weather was still great and winds remained calm. Being that it was a beautiful day, the airport was very busy and I had to use extreme caution while taxiing and taking off. As I said earlier in the video, the airport does not have a tower, so pilots must regulate themselves and make a radio call for every step of their taxi and flight. For the return flight, I'll start with a sped up video of me starting the airplane and taxiing to the runway. Starting the airplane requires a checklist as well. It is important to follow the steps to safely start the plane and prepare for the flight. Remember, the airport does not have a tower, so I have to be extremely careful with my radio calls while taxiing, taking off, and departing from the airport. After I complete my checklist, I scan for planes and text my team to make sure the repo cars aren't giving them issues. Flight back was quick and easy. I made it just in time to see a beautiful sunset and park my plane safely. Thank you for watching my video. I hope that you have enjoyed this and the content yet to come. If you have any questions or would like to see something different in the upcoming videos, let me know. I look forward to your feedback and growing the channel. Thank you.